Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Your Heart is Calling. And today we're going to be talking about the beliefs that really kind of block you from going after what it is that you want. And the reason I want to talk about this is that this has been a really strong part of my own journey, this like back and forth in my head around actually believing that I can have something that I don't have, or maybe even that the people in my immediate life have. And so this idea of like, who am I to dream bigger or have these goals that are maybe not something that anyone in my family has done or even in my immediate friends. And so this can be scary to even entertain the possibility that is beyond what is in your immediate circle. Yet there is often, at least for me, there has just been this whisper of a voice or some sort of drive inside to question that it's not possible. And it's not easy. It doesn't just mean that, like, once you think that there's something greater for you, that you're just like marching along on that path and that it's like super easy, because a lot of the patterns that we have in our unconscious or subconscious, unconscious, really, belief systems, maybe that we did learn from our families or our parents or the social systems that we live in, they they really have a lot of say in how we navigate, like, what it is that we're doing. And so uncovering some of those blocks essentially has been really critical in my own path, and just allowing myself little by little, honestly, to be willing to keep the faith, essentially, that I can have something that maybe my family hasn't had yet. And it's tricky. One thing that came up really recently that I'll share is sometimes I just, when I think back to certain times of life, I'll have these little kind of flashes of memories or insights or something that come. And so I start to slow down and notice those, because often they are stitching together insights for me. So that's one of the reasons that I slow down, is because then that way I can catch those when they come up. So very recently, I had this insight pop up, and it was around the fact that there was a point where, when I was transitioning between high school and college, that I was in that in between state of leaving the world that I knew and that my family knew. I was the first one in my family to go to college. And I didn't have a lot of, my parents were supportive of me, but they couldn't guide the way, right? Like, they didn't have the means and the knowledge to be able to help me navigate that situation, because they had never done it themselves. And so I was kind of on my own, looking around at my friends that were on that path and just trying to find my way. And some people that are no longer really in my life right now, I remembered that there was maybe a comment that someone said, like, "Oh, yeah, you're too good for us now." And I had completely forgotten this, but it recently came up, and I was like, "Wow, okay, I've been carrying that for a really long time." Um, I probably didn't think much about it at the time. And honestly, I hadn't, it's not like something that was running in the background. But when there is this part of us that desperately wants to belong or to be included by others, to say something like that, which is pushing away, to say, well, you're too good for us, and like, you're not like us anymore, it can start to create an uneasiness. I guess that's how I would describe it for myself. In, oh my gosh, well, if I move forward and I do these things on my own, I'm gonna lose these people that were in my life previously. And it's just so interesting now, as I reflect back on that time, and honestly, how difficult of a transition from high school to college it was for me. I'm recognizing that there was a part of me holding on to those old people, to um the old set of beliefs that the people around me had, which was, well, you know, that's not for me. I can't go to college, or, we don't do that in my family, or whatever, everybody's going to have their own kind of flavor of that. And so when I think about that now, and how it has been challenging for me to even be willing to step forward and say, I want something different for myself. And I believe it's possible for me, even though I don't really have anybody like in my immediate circle that's doing it. And so for me, in this very moment in time, I have been on this path to move out of, work that I don't find very satisfying, and to move into work that feels purposeful and that I enjoy and love. And and challenging that pattern that I have running in my, an old narrative that is, well, work is really hard. We all have to work hard for, for money. And that's just what work is. Like, you can't have fun and enjoy what you're doing and have it be a means for you in your life. Like, I have noticed that there is a strong pull that it feels like it's an either or in for me. And again, these aren't things that are running like in my normal mind all the time, but when I get quiet, sometimes these little voices will emerge and tell me essentially like what's really going on down there, like, in my psyche. And so it's just been really fascinating to say, okay, I'm going to question that. Is that actually true? Is it true that I can't have this? Who says, right? Who says that I can't? I see other people in the world doing it. Maybe there aren't, people, or maybe there are people in my life doing it, and there's a part of me that says, well, yeah, they can have it, but I can't. And it's like, well, okay, is that true? I mean, who says, really? And so oftentimes when we get to that level, it's really around feeling ready to hold that idea in literally like in our bodies, in our world. And it has taken me personally a really long time to warm up my, essentially like my being, in order to catch up with the thought or the idea that maybe I can have something that's different in my life. And I just want to really encourage anyone that has that like little inside inkling that's like, I want something different from me. And I want you to know that it's safe and it's okay to question the other narrative, which is that's not something for you, or you can't have that. And it might not mean that it just like comes together super quickly. And what it's meant on my own path is that there's been a lot of healing that's needed to happen. And I'm still on that journey. Yet I can see over time now how all of that kind of that desire or that possibility that I've had has been driving what I've been doing for the last 2 years, essentially, little by little, getting closer to being ready to fully embody the idea and have my body catch up with that thought or that, my mind. And some people might call that like divine timing, or, there's a whole bunch of different ways to think of it. And honestly, I would prefer just not even to get into the nitty gritty of the details of that, but mostly just to say the first step is noticing that you might be believing that you can't have something that you actually can. And if it is true that you would like it, then it's time to start questioning that narrative and saying what is true, what is really true about this, so that then if there might be little aspects that can be shifted in your life that get you closer to what it is that you want, rather than just believing that it's a blank slate, no, and then just kind of like settling for whatever it is that you're at in this comfortable state in the moment. And so that has been that's for folks that are interested in breaking outside of the status quo or that comfortable spot in life, and not everybody is going to want to do that, and that is perfectly fine too. So I guess just to even go back to the comments I made about the people in my life that had those limiting views, that's okay. Everybody gets their own experience, and they're going to have their own reasons for why they feel safe or not safe to dream. And, but I just want to encourage folks that if there is this little part in your heart that wants to dream bigger, that you just slowly open to it little by little. And then over time, things will start to unfold. And the more that you can just challenge that narrative that maybe has been in your family for generations, or that all, that like your friend circle maybe continues to, you know, to reinforce, that you can just start to slowly but surely notice, is that still in alignment with the way I feel or the way that I believe? And no big changes necessarily need to be made, but it's more about, okay, I'm going to get honest with myself, and I'm going to lean inward to really, to just note like what is true for me. And there's no need to hold back, because if you're wanting to move forward, there is a way. And so that's just what I wanted to share today. I hope you have a wonderful day that gives you something just to think about and maybe dream about. And we'll talk to you soon.